Channel open. And Star Trek Picard is the best thing we've gotten officially entitled Star Trek since the 2005 episode Terra Prime. Does that really mean anything though? Hello and welcome to the very first episode, the pilot episode of TrekContinuum. I'm Sheyne, your host. I am a lifelong Star Trek nerd since before I was able to crawl. Thank you, Mom. I was a Trekkie, then a Trekker, and now whatever title the fans aren't arguing over. And that doesn't mean that I love everything Star Trek. I'm not a shill. I don't even like everything Star Trek, which we're going to get into in future videos and in this one as well. You know, on TrekContinuum, we're going to talk about most things Trek, all things Trek. Between myself and you, I'll bring in some fellow fans. We'll debate, we'll discuss, we'll get passionate about it. And the Continuum is limitless. So it's not just going to be Star Trek. You know that will be the main focus. You know, I've been thinking about starting this channel for quite a while now. I just could never get my ass in gear. There's a lot of really great Star Trek centric and all things fandom centric channels out there that I love and respect. I don't always agree with, but that's what we're here for, to talk about, to share, to debate. And so just, I don't know, what's going to make this channel any different? Not a clue. We're going to find out together, hopefully. So thank you for tuning in, and if you like what you hear for the rest of this video, please like, share, subscribe, and all that good shit. There's no better time to start this channel that I've been waiting forever to do than with the premiere of the 7th live-action Star Trek series entitled Star Trek Picard, which feels like two different series at once. One series with Picard and the series with all the other characters. Spoilers. Star Trek means everything to me, as it does to millions of people around the world. It was my best friend growing up in many ways when I didn't have enough money or ability to go play with my real best friend and with the other kids. It kept me company, and back then you got laughed at for it. Now you're respected for that, which is amazing. And I've been waiting 18 years for a continuation of Star Trek. You know, Enterprise was a prequel, and of course all the JJ films and STD are prequels. And been waiting a very, very long time for a continuation of the 24th century. Been living, as we all have, with the Next Generation for 33 years. That means everything to me. And when this was coming, I was not excited because of the travesty that are the JJ films. They have their moments. And the absolute train wreck that is our Star Trek Discovery. And so I'm like, oh God, they're going to completely ruin Picard and everything around him in the 24th into 25th centuries. And so, hope against hope. I want to believe that this series was going to be somewhere close on par with what's come before. I wanted it. And so when I sat down at 6 a.m. on Thursday to watch it, so I had the whole day to sit with it, to watch it again, to really analyze, to really think about it, to take my notes, I wanted to sit there and feel. I wanted to feel something powerful. I wanted to be moved. And I was not moved. And that doesn't mean that I didn't find a lot of good in this episode, and we're going to get to that. One thing I greatly appreciated about it was the fact that it didn't feel the need to pander to the casual fan or the new fan and explain everything in there, because they're more than just Easter eggs, and those are things that only people who remember and pay attention and care and love this are going to know. Marvel has led the way for that. Berman Trek in the films pandered to an audience that was the casual going audience, trying to get that money, and it hurt the Next Generation films. It's really debatable if there is even one really good Star Trek Next Generation film. It pandered. It never pushed the story further. Now, Picard comes along and doesn't pander in the same way. It does it in other ways. But at least, at the very, very least, it didn't have to explain what Earl Grey tea is, what this and that and the other thing are, why they're playing Blue Skies. Oh, they played poker? What is this? Oh, we had a ritual on the ship. They never talked about that. I appreciate that. So that's one thing that was done very, very well, as was the overall direction of this episode. Pretty damn good. Obviously, it's beautiful. It's stunning. We knew it would be that. There's a lot of money into it. But it was a very, very well made episode, and the direction for the most part was good. However, the casting choices and what the director brought out of some of these new characters, of some of these new cast members, leave a lot to be desired. But nowhere is there more to be desired than with the writing. The dialogue, as we've come to expect from STD, is pretty low brow. Even moments with Picard himself, don't quit your day job. Like, come on, dude. And there were some other questionable moments for Sir Patrick's dialogue, but a great actor can elevate bad writing. And that's what Sir Patrick has done here. And that's, just look at The Rise of Skywalker. Bad writing, good acting can make a story, a final product better. Average to below average to bad acting, with bad writing, you're fucked. And a lot of this episode, particularly with the actress playing Dodge and the not Fox News reporter, FNN, really suffered. Dodge's scenes with Picard, they were good for the most part. But everything that was standalone was very CW-esque. Just look at the scene where the actress is playing her twin at the end with the bucktooth Romulan, obvious bad guy, swarmy bastard. It's just so like, oh my God, you're so cute. And then take the scene where she's calling her mother. Dodge is calling her mother to be like, oh my God, what am I going to do? And the mother's like, oh, go back to Picard. It's like, what? Oh my God, I figured it out. I didn't tell you that. Yeah, you did. It's just clunky, bad writing. And it's not; those aren't the actors' fault, how they deliver it is them and how they're directed. But the fact that it's so clunky and piss poor, not their fault. That's the writing. I hate to say it, but there's an entire generation of millennial actors that have been trained in the Kristen Stewart School of Method. Oh my God. Kill me. Dodge. What I would have liked to have seen is the actress who played Index, the holographic interface at the Starfleet Archives Museum that Picard goes and visits. She might have been a great Dodge. Now, granted, a lot of this I'm basing off of a very short snippet scene. I'm only basing off that and basing it off of the fact that she visually kind of resembles Brent Spiner. Now, I know Dodge is based off a painting that Data did, but the painting is going to look like whatever actress they cast. And if you want to sell the narrative that Data yearned for another daughter after the unfortunate death of Lal, why not paint someone who's a little bit more Data-esque, but human? Cross that barrier, cross that bridge. It would add to the narrative of this is what he wants. It would be more heartfelt. Like, God, Data, without realizing it, without emotions at the time of painting this painting, wanted a daughter, and here's someone who kind of resembles him. And Maddox, which I do love the fact that they brought Bruce Maddox, even if only in reference, into this story, would make that daughter. I always a crime that they didn't have Maddox in the Offspring episode with Lal. The fact that they brought Maddox into this and he's the one who have made these twins, I think is absolutely wonderful, and I hope that we do catch up with him later in the season. Give me an actress who can carry a show, because she's going to be the center point. The caretakers were great, the Romulan caretakers. I don't know all the names yet. It used to be a time where I knew the actor's name and the character names before it even came out. It says something about the state of Star Trek and the kind of new casts of characters are putting out there, that fans are nowhere near as invested in knowing every little thing about the characters, including their names. And Alison Pill, who, as an actress, she's a fine actress. She kind of irks me, always has. Love the Newsroom, but I liked her in this. She was good. The established actors, the older actors, were good. The second best actor in this episode was number one, was the dog. I'm kidding. Brent Spiner, obviously, Bernadette's Data, despite the horrific de-aging that they did, which is still an improvement from the Comic-Con de-aging. That's sad. And I know I'm not alone in this, but I get this feeling that Patrick Stewart is going to have to take his fellow actors and the, at times, terrible dialogue, put it on his shoulders and carry this show in a way he never has had to do before in Star Trek. Now, I'm not going to go scene by scene by scene, but let's talk about the opening scene, which I think most of us picked up on the fact that it was going to be the opening scene for a while now. I didn't feel anything. It's a competent scene with two amazing actors, but I didn't feel anything. Now, some of that is due in part to my own prejudice going into it, knowing that everything Star Trek has sucked for the better part of 2 decades. And part of it is probably because we've seen 60, 70% of it already. Now I know they wanted to put that in trailers, shock us with data, blah, blah, blah. But they've released so much recently to try to get people to subscribe, try to get people to tune in who are already completely tuned out, and just most of my Star friends like, you know it's going to suck, you know it's going to suck, you know it's going to suck. That's the mentality. So yeah, you're trying to sell data on Picard's reunion and 10 forward on the D. But you ruin it for us. And any moment that was or was not there, and it's not going to have the same impact. Now, is it as bad as showing the Enterprise being destroyed in Star Trek 3's trailer bad? No, obviously not. But ruined is ruined, my friends. And it's the same with the Borg Cube. You have this tag of the episode where it's this big epic tag. Oh my God, it's not just the Romulans, it's not just the Soon type androids, it's the Borg. First of all, it's in the theme song credits, which I'll get to, but you've seen it for so long. Like, we knew where the Riverdale kids were flirting, that entire scene. It was not some great reveal. This is a problem with modern day storytelling and cinema, so to speak, and television, is that so much of it is spoiled for us, especially when they're grasping at straws, especially when they know they have to win over the audience that they've already alienated time and time again. And the question is Picard good enough to overcome all that? Don't know. Well, one thing it had going for it, I feel, was the pace. The slower, more mature, methodical pace that, while it was giving you a lot of exposition and a lot of setup, never quite felt like bang, 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 bang. So long we've had to deal with JJ Trek and STD, just explosions, and continuity that makes zero sense. STD has no continuity, even within their own episodes or in their own scenes. It's horrific. That I feel like this show definitely was a departure from that, and I appreciate that. And it was only really ruined by the piss poor action of River Song. You know, tell me, as a sci-fi fan, you didn't think of River Song watching this episode when Dodge snaps into place. Something Star Trek always did was come with something new and clever, and this is tried and true. The super soldier, okay, I can live with it, but God, did it remind me of River Song, just not as good. FNN, the Federation News Network, news for the galaxy. God help us. I feel like I'm in Gremlins 2 with the Clamp News Network. What offends me about this so much is Star Trek does not have the sensationalist mentality that modern society has and craves and requires in their news services. For that to translate to damn near the 25th century is a problem. You know, this reporter felt like a bad Fox News impersonator, which is likely the point. I get that. CNN, FNN, the kind of storytelling and the digging at things and cherry picking of the truth is very Fox News in their way. But I mean, truly, all news services. Star Trek has always held a mirror up to society and said, look at yourselves just reflected in another alien species in the future. But what they always did was show all sides. Do it with class, do it with subtlety, do it with intelligence, not beat you over the friggin' head with it. I get what the synth attack on Mars is. It is a 9/11 allegory. I get that, and I'm fine with that. What I am not fine with is saying that attack mixed with the other three, the Borg incursion after the Battle of Wolf 359, the Battle of Sector 001, and the Breen attack towards the end of the Dominion War. Now the synth attack, which isn't even on Earth, it's on Mars, which is close enough, has turned everyone into scared, frightened Americans who are seeking sensationalized news and being manipulated by it to have a very, very narrow point of view. You can show the slow de-evolution and fading of utopia in a way that is subtle and not forced, to where you have this news reporter and the way she goes about conducting business and saying that people for the most part don't want to know about history, which is Picard says in the episode, and not have it feel like a bad caricature impersonation on SNL. Now I know asking for subtlety from Kurtzman and crew, I mean, it's not even their vocabulary, but it's something that this show yearns for. We shall see. But to slightly contradict myself, there were two moments where I feel like the show reflected humanity today perfectly if it was portrayed in a way where it was the initial cracks of society, not after already feeling like Starfleet's not Starfleet and I've walked away and no one cares about history. One is actually with the reporter where she makes it a point to segregate Romulan lives from lives. I like that. Picard corrects her. And then the best version and example of this is Alison Pill's character later on when she refers to the synths as them. That was good. That was good. So, maybe there is hope for subtlety after all. So subtlety and canon are two things that are very, very important to me and most diehard Trek fans. I know at one point in the episode when the Romulan henchman spits the acid at Daj, which kills her. Spoilers. I was kind of hoping it was some kind of liquefied capsulated version of Thalaron, which I know Thalaron only affected organic material, the clothes, the phaser rifle would not be affected, and it had a completely different kill effect than this did. But I was hopeful when he spit it out. Did you notice that the trajectory did not look like it went above? It looked like it went below. Whatever. But that leads me to my favorite part of this, nitpick time. And we shall start with my dislikes. Here we go. The 10 forward windows are in the wrong spot. It's to the side. They didn't have the right windows in the right spot. That pisses me off. It's a dream sequence, so maybe it can be skewed. I'll give it that. The uniforms off the rack. They did not fit right. They showed the zippers. You never saw the zippers in the actual movies. You saw this exact zipper just in gold. This is my off the rack uniform. Tell me this is not the same. And you see the zipper in this one as well. They couldn't even bother to go back and look at the actual right proportions. The black on the Next Generation episode uniforms from the series, too low. It was up higher. The back cuts, nothing was exactly right. Okay, it's a dream sequence. Shut the hell up, Sheyne. But continuity used to matter to Star Trek. It matters to the fans, most fans, and it used to matter to everyone behind the scenes at Star Trek, and I just wish it did again. The effects. The circuit burning kind of... The replicators don't need it. The thermal regenerator is good, but the way it's been with the transporters since JJ Trek and the replicators now, it makes no damn sense in 2399. If you want to establish that pre-Kirk, that's what it sounded like in Discovery, and that's how it was in the rebooted universe, in the Kelvin universe, fine. But this is 2399. Have it be a continuation of what it was. You don't need a laser show to show them making tea, Earl Grey, decaffeinated. I do like seeing an emergency beam out when someone's falling in a battle. I was always like, how come they never beam out that way? But the whole, again, circuit burning kind of thing, it makes no sense. This is damn near the 21st century. Advance the technology, don't revert it back. The glitching, activation, deactivation, and in the middle of the holograms. This is not Star Wars. The holodeck never glitched like that. It was always messed up, but it didn't glitch like that. The Doctor on Voyager, he glitched only in a crisis. We get it. They're a hologram. You don't need to have them have fades and glitches through them. It just makes no damn sense. Suits and ties and hipster hair. Oh my. I can't get used to that. But then I have to remind myself that Star Trek has always been a reflection on modern day attire, and usually bad reflection on modern day attire and style. From the hippies in the 60s to the bad perms in the 80s, and usually whenever they try to find new ways of showing civilian clothing, you end up with this. So, I can deal with it, but Romulan Jonas over here, I can't do it. The leap. Fuck out of here with that. Modern day photography lights? Come on. What? We know they have better than that. I have better than that with LED. Stop. It's not as bad as the yellow symbols at the end of Nemesis, but God, those yellow symbols. He asked her name after the sun is completely set, and they sat her down in a little courtyard area. And the cliffhanger tag dialogue, if you are who I think you are. Do you know me? Twice is too many times, and this is way more than that. How is Mars still on fire? Picard says that the reporter is a stranger to war. She's got to be at least 40. The Dominion War, this is 2399. The Dominion War ended in 2375. That means she was about 16 when the Breen attacked Earth. She's not a stranger to war. Continuity. They're back. An unusual necklace? Is it? The Eiffel Tower doesn't have the transport tubes underneath it. They've been there for hundreds of years. Okay, fine. They rebuilt. They remodeled. Like, okay. And I guess that flying saucer disc on top of that building, those windows kind of match the 10 forward windows, which is the set they used to redress for the United Federation of Planets president in Star Trek 6. And then those windows change in Deep Space Nine, so maybe that's the president's office, but I really just don't think that they remembered any of those things or even bothered to go back to look at them. Suplex City over there. I am the advocate for Dodge Lesnar. I like the idea of personal sensor cloaks, but they're shooting guns. They're throwing each other at balconies. People are beaming away. People are getting acid spit on them. There's a huge ass explosion. And no one in the shuttles that you see flying over and nearby in that scene didn't see shit. There are windows. People have eyes. Stupid. Oh, and Picard could barely run up those stairs. By the way, not Picard. But when the explosion happens, he can get thrown 60, 70, 80 feet, land hard, flip back on his spine, and he's okay. There's never been another android like him. Where's Lore? Can someone tell me where the hell Lore is? Where's that body? I assume that he kept it in a box in the cargo bay. I mean, it didn't go to Maddox, clearly. Did it get completely destroyed when the Enterprise D crashed? Where's Lore? The coming attraction is the STD jaded-looking ships. I'll get to that another time. But, yo, Dodge's boyfriend and the Romulan attackers' corpses. They must stink. And also, I'm so tired of the reptilian style that they've thought since JJ Trek and STD is like, oh, that differentiates. Enough. God, oh my God. Come up with something else. Michael Westmore, we miss you. Also, was that supposed to be a Tellarite? Transparent hollow screens. Like lightning seeking the ground. Sir Patrick should know better. Do you know what happens to a toad when it's struck by lightning? On to what I actually liked. The opening scene picking up on the tags of both All Good Things and Nemesis with the poker game and Blue Skies, respectively. Cool. Seeing Worf and Doros, thank God. He's not going to look like a Klingork unless they change it. They forget their own continuity all the time. Now, you're telling me that someone, while all that shit was going down in the high chamber, snapped that photo and sent it to them? Picard speaking French. But then they had to go and announce to the audience, who didn't realize it was French, that it was French. Stop pandering. Small floating cameras. I love that. I always thought that that's how they would record history in the future. I just thought that it would be much smaller, almost incomprehensible to the human eye. I mean, we have tiny ass technology now. Why they had to be that big? Which they're in the future. If they were smaller, I could say maybe that's where the picture of Worf came from, because the Klingons had tiny little recorders. But Romulan neural probes? Like that? They showed a Bajoran. They showed a Trill. Cool. The L-Cars on the replicator. Very similar to TNG. Chateau Picard finally has a replicator. I would have liked to have seen the graves of Robert Ronet and find out what happened to Marie, but maybe down the road, though I doubt it. The Westminster Chimes playing on the clock that wakes Picard up in the study. The same song that played in Star Trek Generations when Picard went to recruit Kirk. The clock. I gave this clock to Bones. He was bringing Kirk out of his escape, out of his retreat, out of his withdrawal. And now the same thing is happening with Picard. Seems like a nice bit of symbolism. At first, I didn't like how the items are being kept in a museum, but then I thought about who Picard is. He loves to educate. He loves archaeology and preservation, educating the future. So it makes sense that he would donate a sizable portion of his personal collection to the Starfleet archives. It being under lock and key, I mean, he's saying no one cares about history, but he's not bothering to let people go and check out that history. So that's weird to me, but, you know, I do like the fact that they're in a museum because that is a continuation of who Picard was. We were all very worried that they were going to Jean-Luc Skywalker the character of Picard and make him just be a complete betrayal of who he had always been and completely ruin the hero that he's always been. Thankfully, they didn't do that, and thankfully, it didn't take all that much to get him to get off his ass and realize that he's been waiting for death, and now he's going to get up, get his ass in gear, and do what's right. So I can get behind it. all that talk of the licensing agreements being 25% different, I do believe there's merit to that. For the most part, they did a really good job with recreation of the models of the Enterprise E out of the Enterprise E model of the Stargazer, though I would have preferred for it to be the gold Stargazer from his actual Ready Room. The Ferengi have established business on Earth. I love that. That's what Grand Nagus Rom was chosen for, to revolutionize it, and I love that. I love that they have a presence there, just seen on one of the holograms in Greater Boston. What I am worried about, though, is that people like Grand Nagus Rom and Chancellor Martok will either be completely forgotten about or only mentioned by the fact that they're not mentioned. You might hear this, Chancellor Takuvma II, and it'd be like, what the fuck happened to Martok? I'm worried they're going to forget about the continuity of these beloved characters from my favorite series, Deep Space Nine. The score and theme, the visuals for the theme song, good. I appreciate, the references to many different things from the Eye and First Contact, showing the Borg cube in the theme for the pilot. I think wait until, and granted it was ruined in the trailer, like I said earlier, but wait for the episode to be over. Do the theme song the next episode. The fact that they hit the notes at the end from the motion picture theme. Throughout the episode, the scored moments felt like it was going to go into from Generations. Like the first note of that horn, it felt like it was there, whether that's intentional or not. It's definitely a step up from the very lackluster fan fiction / animated series mesh that is the Star Trek Discovery theme. The Kings. There's something that says Kings. Granted, there's an American team called the Kings. I'm kind of hoping that maybe baseball made a comeback in the latter half of the 24th century. Cisco being the most important captain during the Dominion War, maybe people got interested in what he's interested in, learning about him, and they decided to bring back, granted, the Kings were the London team with Buck Bokai, but maybe they're in town, or maybe Boston decided to take them. They did use the term Grand Slam later on in the episode. Granted, we use many terms and phrases that we don't know the origin of. We don't get it, but hopefully, maybe baseball's back. Picard's jacket is a nice-ass jacket, though. The Romulan foreheads. The fact that the woman caretaker didn't have one, and the male caretaker had a subtle one. I never really liked the V lines that went through the Next Generation era Romulans. I thought it was unnecessary and a stupid way to differentiate them from the Vulcans. So I like the fact that he has a muted version of that they've incorporated, and it's maybe fading away. I like that. They actually had restraint, not flat out naming Spock. I thought the reporter was going to name Spock because they, for so long the French have been like, we can't get away from Kirk and Spock, we can't get away from Kirk and Spock, we have to have them. Ending on an updated version of the Balance of Terror Romulan theme. Well done. So I wrapped this video up talking about something that has brought a lot of controversy to the Trek fandom the last few years, but especially with relation to Picard the last 6 months or so. The themes introduced. They are clearly referencing 9/11, immigration, Brexit, Trump, prejudice, racism, paranoia, idiocy of society on the whole. And I love it. I love it. But my fear is that what has caused people to forget that Star Trek has always been progressive will afflict Picard as well. See, Star Trek has always been about addressing the topics of our time and presenting them in a balanced and mature way, an intelligent way, where all sides are respected and all sides of the argument were presented, and the audience, while knowing that the crew, for the most part, leaned towards the progressive left liberal side, they also respected those, for the most part, there are exceptions, who felt differently, and they talked about it. And the series always, in the first 5 series, left the audience to make a determination for themselves. And more often than not, we agree with our heroes. What Star Trek has become, and what pop culture and media on the whole has become, has been a agenda-ridden machine to make a certain segment of the population feel like shit and elevate the others without any intelligence or sense. And then they ridicule you if you don't agree with them, if you call them out on the fact that they've had bad writing and bad characters. And so to hear that Star Trek Picard was going to introduce all those topics in the current climate where there has not been intelligent writing and a balanced approach in Star Trek for years, just led most of us to go, oh, God, here we go again. With Deep Space Nine, they had competent producers and competent writers that were able to show and reveal and pull the curtain back on the flaws and the cracks of the Federation and of these people and present them in a balanced way, an intelligent way, bring them full circle. I had every faith that the vision would be complete and would never alienate anyone. It would just make us think, it would make us feel, and it would be done well. I have zero faith in the minds behind JJ Trek and STD and many of the people working on Picard to do that, led by Alex Kurtzman. Now, maybe Michael Chabon can prove otherwise, but then he's gone now. So what does the future say, even if they do accomplish that now? We shall see. But I don't have faith that they're going to be able to tackle these subjects that Star Trek should be tackling, which is immigration, which is the polarized political climate, which is the losing of faith, which is 9/11, which is all these things that Picard is doing, that it should be doing, but it should be doing well, that Star Trek always has. I just don't have faith that they're going to be able to do it, and I think that's why people were pissed about it and gave their own face palm and said, fuck, here we go again. In addition to Michael Chabon, we have Sir Patrick really being the driving force behind all these ideas from all accounts and purposes. And I don't know how I feel about that. I think it's great that he's introducing them, but I also know he's made some piss poor decisions. The dune buggy in Nemesis was his doing. The crappy love story with Anij and Insurrection was his doing. But then again, he also said Picard should be on the ship fighting the Borg in First Contact, not Riker. And he was right about that. So, I don't know. But so far in this one episode, while better than anything we've had since 2005, since Enterprise, but nothing felt real. The stakes just aren't there yet. But for a pilot where you're supposed to care about these characters, these new characters, and the people, the woman that is driving Picard to come out of his self-imposed exile, I didn't care. You know who I do care about? Riker, Geordi, Worf, Beverly, Troy, Wesley, Guinan, Q. I care about them. And that's really what we wanted from this revival of sorts. It's never going to feel like Trek again. We know that. But Sir Patrick could have had anything he wanted. They wanted him so badly to try to set this franchise on the right path again that they would have given him anything he wanted. He could have had a show that was a little bit more like Trek and a little less like JJ, but he didn't go for that. And that is what it is. But what he could have had, what we could have had, was not just this new cast of characters, but have the original Next Generation cast come back together bit by bit, reunited, all drawn into this fight, this struggle, because of how important the themes are to these individual characters. See these issues reflected in them, how they handle it, how it affects them. That will drive it home. It'll be better, more intense, as faster, more intense, as Lucas would say. It would drive it home. We would love to see how it's affecting all of them, not just in cameos, but in coming together. These old men and women, these great heroes of old, coming together as they did in All Good Things, but doing it over a miniseries or a season or two. And then you can continue that with other casts. DS9, even though it's harder now in light of recent events, which I'll have videos on later, or Voyager and Enterprise. You can revisit and do it the right way. You can have us see these characters before it's too late, one last time on a full reunion mission together again. We got to see it with the original cast. We yearn to see it with the Next Generation, but they didn't do that, and that sucks. And I feel gypped, and I feel like I'm supposed to care about this crew that by all previews looks pretty insufferable, kind of like me. But unfortunately, what Kurtzman and CBS want is to appeal to that ever-elusive 18 to 49-year-old demographic, especially the millennials and the teenagers, and get them to spend money and be totally invested. So they need cool, young, attractive dudes, as Dodge said, and kick-ass women to be on this show, and it just doesn't work. It feels phony, it feels cheap, it feels fake, and the only genuine thing really was Jean-Luc Picard. Maybe that'll change, but it just doesn't seem like it's going to. And let me tell you something. The fans who want the Next Generation We are the ones that invest. We are the ones who tune in. We are the ones who subscribe. We are the ones who get the buzz going, who trend it. The younger generation, they just don't care. You are catering to the casual fan that is never going to give you the monetary returns that you so desperately seek. And that's where you done fucked up. What would have done that is strong writing, a visual style that is more in line with what we have established from the 24th century. Not that this was completely alien from that. And the crew from one of the most legendary and influential science fiction series of all time coming together for one final mission. I'll end with this. In 2013-14, I was at the Next Generation speaking panel at the Hammerstein Ballroom in New York. The entire cast was there, with the exception of Frakes, moderated by William Shatner, including John Delancey and Denise Crosby. A mass question for all of them was asked from the audience: would you return to the Kelvin universe, a JJ Trek, or some version of it? And with the exception of Marina Sirtis and Denise Crosby, it was an emphatic no. This is not Star Trek. It does not carry the ideals or the eloquence that our shows did. I guess for Sir Patrick, the chance to tell the stories he wants to tell, for Star Trek to be topical again, enticed him back. And then, of course, when he asks someone to come, they come. But could it slightly be about money? I hope not. But it usually is. Everyone needs to work. I get it. Unfortunately, a very topical theme is that there's nothing like money to abandon our morals and our convictions. And I truly hope that Picard doesn't end up making the fans feel like that's exactly what he and the returning members of Next Generation did. We shall see. Till next time, end transmission.